excuse my bumpy handwriting, but I'm writing this in rather a hurry so as to catch the last post. These other two girls are the absolute end, but I think they're going back to school tomorrow as their scarlet fever is better now. Mine is also. But Dr. Doran says I have a bit of a sore throat, so I should stay another day or two. The food here is absolutely awful. We have fish eyes and glue almost every day for pudding, and you know that just the smell of it makes me quite nauseous. But I'm really quite faint with hunger most of the time. Perhaps you could ask Dr. Chisholm to bring me some tuck when he visits the hospital tomorrow. I'm sure he wouldn't mind, particularly as it's a matter of life and death. Your fond niece, Prudence Weatherall.
You must be Dr. Chisholm, the Charity Act Commissioner.
Good day, Matron.
Welcome to Damascus Hospital, sir.
I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Shall I take you directly to Dr. Dorland?
I think I should deliver this first. It's for young Prudence Weatherall.
Oh, yes, she's in the girls' ward. This way, do.
You?
Thank you, Dr. Chisholm. They're absolutely delicious.
Thank your uncle. He paid for them a pretty penny, too. I don't know what's come over Alistair throwing money to the wind like this.
I expect he's feeling guilt-stricken. He said he was going to come up, but he never did.
He's a very busy man, young woman. He's on a most important case right now.
A murder?
Insurance fraud. I'm sorry to disappoint you.
I'm awfully boring for him. Oh, look, Amy.
Where?
Oh, this is Dr. Chisholm. He's a friend of my uncle.
Doctor?
Amy's my best friend here. You can have one if you like. Amy, could you take another one? That's Turkish Delight.
How about this?
That's all right. I don't like coconut. She's no good. She's the best nurse of them all.
Is that so?
She's the only one who's had training. You can tell by the way she does things.
Now, don't forget, Prue, you must share with Rose and Constance.
Well, they're leaving in an hour. Oh, well. All right, I suppose I could spare 2 of the coconut ones.
Is there anything you need, Doctor?
Thank you kindly. I'm off to see Dr. Dorland in a minute.
I've only had 3, though.
They're very rich and very expensive.
Well, will you speak to them about the puddings?
That's not what I'm here for, child. I'm here to look at the books, that's all.
Well, what about the medical treatment?
That's not my responsibility.
Well, I think it should be. I mean, who's going to ask them why so many of their patients die?
You're a medical expert now, are you?
That's what Amy says.
Well, I hope she doesn't spread her opinions abroad.
No, she only tells me. Anyway, lots of the ones who die here are charity cases, like old Mrs. Rumble.
Mrs. Rumble?
She had this grumbling appendix, you see. She was almost cured.
And then she suddenly died.
Last night, as a matter of fact. Amy says it happened lots of times. People are croaking all over the place.
Now listen to me, young lady. Little girls who let their imaginations run free end up in jail for public mischief or worse, and that goes for nurses, too. And I know exactly how many chocolates are left.
Won't keep you much longer, Doctor.
Don't mention it, Dr. Dolan. That's as neat a piece of stitching as I've seen in a long time.
In a hospital like this, there's no better place to perfect the skill.
You don't use silk thread.
Horsehair has been good enough for me these years. Never had any stitches break either. There you go. See Nurse Pelly, she'll put a bandage on it. You'll join me in a drink, Doctor.
Later, if I may.
As you wish.
Young Wetherall, she's progressing well.
Yes. I'm sending the other two girls back to school today, but I think I'll keep her here for another day or two. Her throat's still a little inflamed. I'd be glad of a second opinion, of course.
I'm a pathologist, Doctor. I leave the health of the living to the rest of the profession.
But you're a member of the committee.
At the Premier's request, it takes little enough time.
Well, perhaps you'd tell him that 20 cents a day for a charity patient nowhere near covers the expense incurred.
I'm afraid recommendations like that are beyond my brief. A small thing with young Prue. She seemed very disturbed over the sudden death of one of your patients.
Oh.
Mrs. Rumble. Seems she died last night.
Yes. Yes, indeed.
Can I get you the financial reports, Doctor?
Appendix, she said. A sudden attack.
Sudden, yes.
The doctor did everything possible to save her life.
Had it burst? The appendix.
It was an emergency. She was in great pain. The shock proved too great for her.
Yes. It must have been the shock.
There are books, Doctor. They're in my office.
Thank you, Mrs.
Perhaps you'd like to accompany me on my rounds. See the hospital in action.
But there's the reports to read, the books.
Oh.
That can wait. Not often I get a chance to examine live patients.
Well, don't expect too much, Doctor. We've a simple hospital here. Few luxuries. Yeah. It was a shock. You see, she was 68. Sweet, Doctor.
There we are. There we are.
So hot, Miss Cornelia.
It's just a fever, dear. Once it breaks, you'll feel much better.
I'm not going to die, am I?
Die? Whatever gave you that idea?
My dad. He says hospitals just take your money and leave you to die.
Then he's talking nonsense, and when he comes back, I'll tell him to his face.
Oh, I hope he comes soon.
Now, there's nothing to be frightened of, Noreen. You've got a touch of fever, that's all.
Oh, I won't have to have an operation.
Oh, of course not. Now just rest. Try to sleep.
Noreen Tyson came in this morning with a high fever.
She's very fearful, Doctor.
No need for that, child. We'll have you on your feet again in no time. Now, you go and get some sleep, Miss Cornelius.
I'm all right, Doctor.
Up all night and still working? If all my nurses were like you, Miss Cornelius, I'd have little work left to do.
Well, perhaps Nurse Pelly could take over for a while.
Nurse? Here you are, Major. There's one for the government, one for the next of kin, fresh from the township office.
I'll fill them in, get the doctor to sign them.
Yes, well, the sooner the better.
A fine old lady she was, but we can't keep her too long. It's all very well you taking these charity cases, but who's going to pay to have them embalmed? Nobody, that's it.
No, dude, the doctor's busy right now.
Well, the sooner we get her in the ground, the better for all. I threw some lavender water on her, but it didn't help. It didn't help at all.
You did everything possible.
Yes, Doctor.
I didn't know she had any next of kin.
Yes, Miss Cornelius found a cousin, I believe. There'll be no pauper's burial for Mrs. Rumble.
Her name's been left off this one.
How careless of me.
I'll fill it in.
No, Doctor. I think I should do it. All the rest is in my copperplate script. It lends a certain dignity, I think. It's the least we can do for the relatives.
Yeah. You do it then.
Well, is that what you said?
I'm sorry, Amy.
Yes, Doctor, I told her that.
You're a nurse, young woman. If you want to make judgments of that kind, you should have gone to medical school and become a doctor.
She wouldn't have died in Fergus, not with Dr. Groves in charge.
Dr. Groves has some interesting new methods and theories, but he's not the Archangel Gabriel.
I nursed her, Doctor. I saw her getting better.
Appendices are notoriously unpredictable. They can erupt at any time.
I nursed her, Doctor. She was better. There was no swelling, no pain.
There must have been some tenderness.
None.
Of course, it's been years since I've practiced. Perhaps there isn't always tenderness when an appendix erupts.
I've never seen one that didn't have pain first. And not just at the last moment. That's how Dr. Groves told us to recognize the danger signs.
You're working for Dr. Dorland now.
Dr. Dorland? He doesn't even wear rubber gloves when he operates, or a sterile gown.
Dr. Dorland's methods are similar to those of most other doctors, young woman.
He washes his hands once, that's all. Dr. Groves said you should wash at least 9 times to get all the bacilli off.
I've also heard he claims that smoking tobacco produces feeble-mindedness.
That's still using horsehair instead of silk. Sea sponges in operations when they're covered in germs. And he still uses ether when everyone knows it can freeze the
Everyone does not know. Do you know what you're really saying?
I'm saying that Mrs. Rumble should still be alive, and about half a dozen more I can think of.
Forget the others. Just Mrs. Rumble last night. Are you saying she was killed deliberately?
Murdered! I can't say that. I didn't see the body. They took her out in the middle of the night.
Where to?
Muldoon's the undertakers. That's where they all go.
And 5 is 25.
And I hope you'll be getting your money back. Mrs. Rumble's cousin, that is.
Oh, that's not important. Only that the poor soul should be buried with dignity.
Oh, you're a fine lady, if I may say so.
Oh, please.
Oh, well, what happened to old Mrs. Rumble if you hadn't found that cousin of hers? And Mrs. Sanders before that? And didn't you pay for Mrs. Pratt's funeral yourself? And a decent coffin for Millie Smith when all her family'd spring for it was plain pine.
I have no family of my own. It pleases me to use what little money I have in this fashion.
Well, I hope when your time comes, there'll be somebody doing the same for you. I promise to do it myself, you understand? I don't know how much longer I've got in this world. Some mornings when I wakes up, I can hardly pull myself out of bed.
I must go. I have to get the coffin to Orangeville.
Well, don't you worry now. Embalmed proper she is. It was the best arsenic in the house. They could bury her all the way to Cape Breton, and she'd still be smelling as sweet as she does right now.
It's my leg, Matron.
You've had your medication for this week, Curly.
But last night, with Mrs. Rumble, all that carrying and cleaning up, oh, it is such an ache, it does. The Lord doth build up Jerusalem and gather together the outcasts of Israel. He healeth those that are broken in heart and giveth medicine to heal their sickness. I prayed for her. I prayed that the Savior would spare her further pain. And the Lord heard my prayers. She's now with the angels in heaven, secure in the Savior's arms. Nurse Matron, Amy Brown, what reward shall be given or done unto thee, thou false tongue? Even mighty and sharp arrows with hot burning coals.
Mrs. Rumble, you say?
Yes, she was brought here last night.
Ah, yes, indeed. You can start pouring the creosote now. It's very tricky, this stuff is. Get it too hot, cook your corpse clean through.
You don't use formaldehyde, then?
Oh, it's nasty stuff. Yankees like it, I'm told, but not me. I like a sweet smelling stiff, you might say. Creosote, alcohol, arsenic, camphor, oil cloves. When I'm finished with them, you'd swear they was still alive. Color in their cheeks. Almost smell their breath, you can. Oh, good lad. Now, right to the last drop. Now the arsenic. Excuse me asking, Doctor, but why would you be wanting to see old Mrs. Rumble then?
Just a formality. You have to check the charity cases, make sure they're not just names on the books.
You telling me that some hospitals do that? Make up pretend people like and take the money for them?
Now and then.
Makes you lose your faith in human nature, doesn't it?
Can I just see the body?
Now, if you'd been here a few hours back, I could have obliged you.
She's buried already?
Well, there's no next to kin. There's nobody paying. I get them in the earth pretty quick. But slowly, lad, slow. Them old ones, you see, they start rotting just as soon as your back's turned.
How dare you criticize Dr. Dorland? I know what you said. You have the presumption to take his name and his reputation and trample them into the ground before a stranger. You're not even worthy to serve in the same hospital as Dr. Dorland.
I'm sorry, matron. I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have said what I did.
I should dismiss you on the spot. You know that. However, I have no wish to see a career end so abruptly before it has begun.
Oh, matron.
Perhaps you have too little to do. Light work makes for idle tongues. I shall reassign you to the women's ward.
Matron, who will look after Prue?
Miss Cornelius. She deserves a rest from her long hours.
Yes. Thank you, matron.
Nurse, guard your tongue and remember your place. Watch Noreen Tyson. Her fever's breaking, but she must be kept cool.
She should sleep till morning with the laudanum. I think she's over the worst now.
Matron says the fever's breaking.
By morning, I think.
Miss Cornelius, I didn't tell Prue I wouldn't be sleeping nearby. She may be frightened.
I'll be there if she wakes.
It doesn't sound so fishy to me. Oh, by the way, have you been doing any fishing lately?
No, I'm too uneasy. I've got a feeling there's something not quite right here.
Well, I'm on this insurance case, Archie. I can't just drop it, you know.
Well, I'm not asking you to. I'm just telling you I think there's something wrong. You might want to...
Well, you're playing detective, are you?
Well, I want to be satisfied one way or the other. I can't believe it's malpractice. I've seen Dorland at work. He's a fine surgeon.
Well, I should look into insurance fraud possibilities, Archie.
Insurance fraud?
Even charity cases have relatives somewhere, you know.
Wasn't I called?
Oh?
She's suffocating. And the fluid, her throat's blocked. I'll have to do a tracheotomy. Quick, there's not a minute to lose. Hold her down.
Well, I'll get matron.
There's no time. Hold her.
When you were pulling it out.
Go put the bandage on.
Oh, what about her?
Oh, the crisis is over. You can hear her breathing. Look after yourself now. You must avoid infection in the cot. Yes. She's resting now.
Are they all sleeping?
Yes, matron. Thou shalt not be afraid for any terror by night, nor for the owl that flieth by day, or the pestilence.
up. She wouldn't even answer me.
Shock, eh?
And then she started crying. I felt awfully sorry for her, Dr. Chisholm, but there wasn't anything I could do.
And then she told you what happened.
She said that someone filled Noreen's lungs with water. Isn't it exciting?
Well, I'd hardly use that word myself.
Well, that means it was murder.
It doesn't mean anything of the sort.
But she
You
said...
weren't there, child, nor was she.
Well, Sally went away for a few minutes just to put a bandage on her cut. And when she got back, someone had filled a container with water, put it up on the bedside table, and was drained into her lungs.
But we still don't know that that's what killed her. She might have been dead already.
Well, you'd know if you did an autopsy, wouldn't you?
I dare say.
And then you can telegraph Uncle Alistair, and he can come up here and arrest the murderer.
Now, hold on just a minute, young lady. There's a possibility you mustn't ignore.
What?
Let's suppose that young Amy made a mistake. Suppose she got confused and put the container up there herself. Suppose the girl Noreen died as a result of that. Now, what do you think young Amy might have done? Exactly. Made herself scarce, pretended she knew nothing about it, though she was basically responsible for the occurrence. Oh, I'm not blaming her. I've no doubt it was a mistake to leave her alone with Miss Tyson after the tracheotomy.
Well, that's terrible. That means that she could have killed Noreen.
There wasn't any time, matron. He had to operate right away. Nurse Kelly was down the hall. Miss Cornelius, I was in my room. Any of us could have come. It just happened so suddenly. A nurse's job is to deal with sudden emergencies. Matron, could I sit down? What's the matter? I don't know. I feel so lightheaded. You feel warm. I haven't had any breakfast. Well, perhaps you'd better go to the kitchen and get something to eat. Yes. Nurse Brown. Yes, miss. You can't stay here after this. I'll give you time to pack and to make travel arrangements, of course, but you can have nothing further to do with any of the patients. Kelly!
I wonder, Doctor, if I could be of service at this time.
What?
Perhaps if I conducted a post-mortem.
Post-mortem? I don't know her father. He'd have to be...
We cannot ask him.
Cannot?
The girl was pregnant, you see. Would break his heart. Her father had no knowledge of that.
The girl told you this, Doctor?
No, she told only me. There are some things a woman can share only with another. She hoped that the fever would cause her to lose the child.
But it did not.
She cannot add such shame to her father's burden of grief. She was his only child.
Hey, you must excuse me. I'm not fully myself today. Rest. Yes. I need to rest.
Of course, I'm sorry to have...
We did everything possible. Everything.
Where are you taking Amy?
She has a fever, Prue. Matron felt she'd be better looked after in the ward.
She's going to be all right, isn't she?
Oh, don't you worry, my dear. We take special care of our own. They're like family.
She looks awful.
How's your throat?
It's a little sore.
Well, don't talk so much. It'll get better quicker. Now, Matron, these 6 deaths in the last 4 months, the charity cases, that is, the last of them, Mrs. Rumble, did any of them have any next of kin?
Not that I know of.
Did any of them leave a will?
A will?
Life insurance policies, things like that.
Doctor, very few of our charity patients can even read and write. How would they pay the premiums on life insurance? They have not a penny in the world. That is why the government gives us 20 cents a day.
Ah, yes.
You'll be leaving today, Doctor?
Tomorrow, perhaps.
But I understood that you required only half a day to examine the books. That is always the way it has been with the commissioners in the past.
Well, we all have our idiosyncrasies, Matron.
If you stay any longer, it will appear that you're questioning Dr. Dorland's honesty in spending the public funds.
I'm just trying to do a thorough job, that's all.
Why are you persecuting him?
Matron?
What's he done to you, but you hate him so? For 20 years, he has labored to make this the finest hospital in the province. And for 10 of those years, I've been privileged to serve by his side. All over this district, there are men and women who owe their lives to him. He never turns anyone away, and he never stops until he's done everything humanly possible. Leave him alone, Doctor. You've finished here.
Matron, just one more question. These 6 charity deaths, all of them female, all have the number 6 against their name. Why is that?
It is the number of the bed.
They all died in bed number 6.
Of course. That is where we put the patients that are most seriously ill.
The body is a strong instrument, Nurse Brown. One of our strongest allies.
Miss Cornelius, I'm frightened.
Now, you heard the doctor, child. There's nothing to be frightened of.
He killed her.
What?
He killed Maureen Thurston. He put the jar on the table when I left the room.
What nonsense.
Oh, I have to tell someone, Miss Cornelius. It couldn't have gotten there by itself. It was put there.
Amy.
He'll try to kill me next.
Now, hush, Amy.
He'll come to me in the night. I know he will. He knows I suspect him.
Here, drink this. It will help to settle you down.
I should call for the constable. Tell him what I saw.
When the arm is better, if you still believe what you've told me, and want to see the constable, I will go with you.
Thank you, Miss Cornelius.
You will think differently once the fever has gone.
Keep him from me.
Yes, dear, of course I will. Sleep now.
I'm sorry, Alistair. I wouldn't ask you to come up for nothing.
And the girl wasn't pregnant, you're sure?
She could hardly be pregnant, man, when she was a virgin.
I don't mind admitting it, Alistair. I'm out of my depth.
I'll be up on the morning train.
It'll have to be Lance, Doctor.
Matron, I need matron.
We'll have to act fast, Doctor. The swelling gets worse by the minute.
Take her to the operating theater.
Be fast asleep.
Amy?
Amy's going to be all right. Look at you. You're practically asleep on your feet.
I woke up and I got scared.
Well, it was just a bad dream.
But there's such a funny noise in my head.
That's just the laudanum. I should have to speak to Nurse Pelly. She should have been watching you.
Doctor! Doctor! What's the matter?
The infection must have reached her heart. She must have died in her sleep. Good morning, Doctor.
Morning. This is Inspector Campbell, the Provincial Detective.
Detective? What is he doing here?
I sent for him.
Without informing Dr. Dorland?
I was not satisfied about the circumstances of Noreen Tyson's death.
You had no right.
He had every right, Matron.
I beg your
If he
pardon.
thinks things are not as they should be, he has a responsibility to take action.
I have no objection. We've nothing to hide. We've always done the best for our patients. If there are those who believe otherwise, they have an obligation to speak out. I and my staff are at your disposal. I shall be in my office if you need me. Inspector?
Doctor? I think you better do a post-mortem, Archie.
I'll arrange to have the body taken to Muldoon's.
Matron, who was the nurse on duty last night?
Miss Cornelius.
Where is she?
I gave her the morning off. Her sister died, and she had to attend to the business of the funeral.
Oh, here in Damascus?
No, in Luther. The body's coming up by train from Hamilton.
But she'll be back later this afternoon.
Of course.
What time would she have gone off duty?
At 6 this morning. Nurse Pelly took over at that time. Pelly? This is the detective. I want you to answer his questions.
I was praying for her soul.
You came on duty at 6 o'clock.
Yes, sir. Let everything that has breath praise the Lord.
And the girl was alive at that time.
She was sleeping.
You're sure?
Nurse Pelly is one of our most experienced nurses, Inspector.
They are glad because they are at rest. He has brought her unto his haven.
Did you see her alive, nurse?
See? She was sleeping.
Did you look at her?
I was praying.
Matron, what's the matter with this woman? She looks as if she's been drugged. Can't she?
Morphine.
How long have you been giving her this?
She was in such pain with her leg.
How long?
She went to see Dr. Dorland. He prescribed it. He told me to give her enough to keep the pain at bay.
Good God, you must have known she'd become addicted.
It was the only way she could continue to do her work.
Uncle, isn't it terrible about poor Amy? I knew she was sick, but I never thought it was so serious. I couldn't even think of breakfast.
Well, she died in her sleep. She didn't suffer. I know it's sad, child, but things happen like that.
What, was it the infection in your arm?
We'll know better when Dr. Chisholm completes the autopsy.
Oh, Uncle, you mean he's going to cut her up?
Now, open.
Well, it's terrible.
It's not the most cheerful of thoughts, but we have to find out why she died.
I think she was murdered.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she was always criticizing the hospital, and Matron doesn't like her one bit.
You don't murder people you don't like. At least not usually.
You can do anything to a person on an operating table.
Yeah, but she wasn't operated on.
She was.
No, child. Chisholm examined the body.
I'm not a child, Uncle. I saw them taking her in. Honestly.
My niece saw the girl being wheeled into the operating theater.
She was half asleep. I took her back to her room myself, and I had to hold her up.
She'll swear to that in court if she has to.
It was the laudanum. She simply had a nightmare.
She's my niece, matron. I know her, and she may be young, but I assure you she's capable of distinguishing between fact and fiction.
She's only a child.
Why are you lying, matron? What are you trying to conceal?
Nothing.
You said that Noreen Tyson was pregnant.
She was.
Dr. Chisholm has been to the undertaker's. The girl was a virgin. You were lying about Noreen, and now you're lying about Amy. Why?
You must not blame him. It is not his fault.
Dr. Dorland?
He found out earlier this year. He has a growth in his brain. There's nothing to be done. It's just a question of time. He wanted to go on with his work until the time came. But the growth has begun to affect him. He has spells in the night when he doesn't know what he's doing. He makes decisions to operate when no operation is necessary. He leaves wounds open, work undone.
The throat tube?
I've tried to prevent him. I've tried to be around in the night to persuade him not to operate, but sometimes I've been too late.
The other nurses. Surely they must have seen him.
No, they did not know. The patients who died, the ones that he operated on, were always the ones who were the most ill. Breaks my heart to see him the way he is. He was so proud and so strong, and now you can just see the
last night.
Miss Cornelius was on duty. He insisted on operating.
But you didn't. There was no cut.
I don't know what happened. She was dead when I found her.
In the operating theater?
The girl was dead. Miss Cornelius and I took her back to the ward.
So Miss Cornelius knows the truth about Dora?
No. I told her that the girl had died of natural causes, that the infection had reached the heart.
Oh. Where's Dora now?
He's taken some laudanum. I persuaded him to sleep. Oh, Inspector, I beg you, he has so little time left to live. Let me take him away. Let him spend his last days in peace.
That'll be for the court to decide. Don't let him out of your sight till I return, do you understand?
I promise, Inspector.
What if he wakes?
I'll give him morphia.
Oh, don't give him too much. I want to question him.
You'll be wasting your time, Inspector. He remembers nothing of the spells. He knows that he was present, but he has no memory of what he did.
Oh, and another thing, Matron. These 6 deaths, the charity cases that Dr. Chisholm mentioned, were they all the results of nighttime operations?
Yes.
Who were the nurses on duty?
Just Miss Cornelius?
She never questioned the doctor's action?
Not to my knowledge.
Ah, Mr. Stedman of the Vulcan Insurance Company, if I'm not mistaken.
Inspector Cameron, what brings you to these parts?
I might ask you the same question. I thought you were still working in Toronto.
Oh, I am indeed, sir. But my insurance company has just made a new rule thanks to your investigations. Every grave must now be viewed by a company agent before a penny is paid out.
No longer satisfied with burial certificates.
Oh, not anymore, sir. Not till we can find a way to bring the certificates into repute again. A forgery of doctors' names, non-existent deaths, empty coffins. But you know it all too well.
Indeed, I do.
I'm here investigating the death of a Miss Cornelius. Her sister's the beneficiary, and she works at this hospital.
She does indeed, but she's at Luther today burying her sister. This moment.
No, Inspector. Miss Cornelius was buried 3 days ago. And at Granton Cemetery. Well, see for yourself.
Edwina Cornelius, age 68.
There's nothing wrong, I hope.
One sister buried at Granton 3 days ago. Another arriving by train today to be buried at Luther. Why not the same cemetery? Nothing wrong, no. It's just that the Cornelius sisters seem to have a remarkably high mortality rate.
You smell fraud, Inspector?
Perhaps, Mr. Stedman. Yeah. Would you come with me?
Well, there's your answer, Alistair. Ether poisoning. Her lungs are frozen together with the stuff.
Ah. Could it have been accidental?
It must have been poured down her throat.
Terrible business. Terrible.
Uh-huh. Is this the Tyson girl?
Yes, sir. Brother's on their way home right now. He wanted the best he did. That special walnut.
But you said she was in a pine box, aren't you?
She was.
Why did you move her, Muldoon?
Move?
Into this coffin.
Well, that's one Mr. Tyson's paying for.
Well, then what was she doing in that coffin over there last night?
There ain't no coffin over there.
There was.
Oh, you're mistaken, gentlemen. Never lose track of coffins, I don't.
Flour, Muldoon.
Eh?
Is that what you put in this coffin, flour? Would you open it up, Archie? And if you put pints of flour in there, where's the body of Miss Tyson?
Well,
Mr. Stedman, would you be good enough to find the local constable and ask him to come back here? Tell him it's a case of body snatching.
Well, what about the other matter?
I'll leave it with me.
no harm to it.
To what?
The charity cases, nobody cared what happened to them. No one paid for a coffin.
Mm-hmm. And what did you do with the bodies?
It wasn't my idea. It was Miss Cornelius. Well, she was the one that suggested it.
Stealing bodies? Come, sir. Why should you do that?
Well, she had a doctor friend down in Toronto at the medical school. She said they paid good money for bodies for medical research. And she said we could both do ourselves a bit of good. Huh. She got $50 apiece for it, and we split it down the middle.
Uh-huh. But this was no charity case.
She told her it was too risky. But she said they needed the body of a young woman urgent. Pay extra for it, another $20.
So she took this body this morning.
To take it to the station.
At Luther?
Who told you that?
And how many bodies did you sell her?
Oh, 6, but there was all charity cases before this one. They were harmless, sir. They were like helping medical research, you might say.
Yeah, harmless, eh? Archie, I think we'd better drive over to Luther and see this Miss Cornelius. said, I am the resurrection and the life, and he who believes in me, though he die, yet shall he live.
Ah, madam, just in time, I see.
I beg your pardon?
Alistair Cameron, insurance agent. I'm here to pay the amount due in your sister's policy.
There's a funeral going on here, sir.
Ah, and conducted with great aplomb, Rector. If you could just spare me a moment with the bereaved.
I apologize. If I might have a word with you, would you come this way?
Dr. Chisholm!
Just try to keep yourselves warm, my good fellows, eh? For a spell? That's right.
How dare you, sir, intrude upon a moment of great sorrow? Have you no feelings?
A new company practice, madam, not of my making, I assure you.
What is?
We must see the remains before making payment.
You cannot ask me to desecrate the grave.
Just one quick glimpse, madam, will be sufficient. A moment, and then I can hand you $2,000 and be gone.
I don't understand.
Miss Cornelius, let us get out of this wind and we'll discuss it further, eh? This way.
I have not claimed for my sister yet. She's only just died.
Ah, but you have not dealt with our company before, madam. We pride ourselves on paying the amount due before the body is cold. Have you the burial certificate?
Yes, I have. But if I had known that this was your practice, I would never have insured her with your company. Never.
Yes. Sophie Cornelius died at Damascus Hospital, cause of death, respiratory failure following tracheotomy. Interesting. I have a similar certificate here. Yes. Even the time of death is identical. In fact, the only difference name, as you see, madam. This is for a Noreen Tyson.
Yes, I believe that she died a few minutes before my poor sister.
Quite a coincidence. How then, madam, can my company be certain that you are burying your sister and not Noreen Tyson? You do have a sister, madam.
Of course I have. And I will not have her rest disturbed. I am making no claim. Take your money and leave.
Too late, madam. When I open that coffin, I shall see the body of Noreen Tyson. Do you deny that? Or that Edwina Cornelius, recently buried at Granton, was really the body of Mrs. Rumble? Two sisters, both insured with different companies. And doubtless, we shall find other Cornelius graves scattered about the district, occupied by corpses from the Damascus Hospital.
You are not an insurance man.
Right, madam. I am a provincial detective. I'm here to arrest you on these 2 counts of fraud and probably 2 of murder.
You cannot prove murder.
Oh, yes, I can.
You cannot prove that it was me and not Dr. Dorland.
Post-mortems will give us the answer. When all the bodies have been exhumed, we shall find out which is his handiwork and which is yours.
I'll take care of him. Give him to me, nurse.
He who is unjust, let him be unjust still. And he who is filthy, let him be filthy still. And he that is righteous, let him be righteous still. And he that is holy, let him be.
This way. That's all right. Come on.
Just as I thought. The tonsils. They're badly inflamed.
The throat feels better today, Doctor. Not nearly so sore.
The infection could spread. I think we'd better get them out.
You need an operation?
It's nothing to worry about, child. A simple and painless procedure.
Well, shouldn't we wait till my uncle gets back?
There's no time.
But Dr. Dolan, I'm scared.
Scared? Come now, you'll be fast asleep. You won't feel a thing. Just breathe normally. Just breathe. That's right, Jack. Roll to sleep. Go on. Matron, it's good you've come. You can assist me.
I think you should go back to your room and lie down.
Well, later, I must see to this first.
No, Dr. Chisholm can do this.
No, the leg, it's infected. If I don't remove it, the whole body will be destroyed.
No, Doctor.
Let go. You're risking this girl's life.
Give me the knife, Doctor.
Are you an enemy too?
Prudence?
Room! The infection. Even now it's working its way up like some viral corruption. We must make the body clean again. My child.
So quiet. I must keep it close to us, will they?
Oh, the district is very fortunate. Dr. Groves is coming from Fergus.
Dr. Groves, wasn't he the doctor Jamie was always talking about?
That's right.
What happened to Matron? I didn't like her very much, but I sort of feel sorry for her now.
Well, she saved your life by killing Dolan. That could count in her favor.
Was she giving out the false burial certificates? She must have known what Cornelius was doing.
No, she thought the same as the undertaker, that Cornelius was selling them to medical research.
But so Cornelius was blackmailing her.
Oh, aye. She promised to keep her mouth shut so long as she got the bodies to sale. Are you finished yet, Archie?
Oh, get away with you. I've got enough on my hands.